The exile. Commander Elena Reyes stood rigid before the Galactic Assembly, 17 alien species staring down at her from their elevated seats. The vast chamber, carved from a single massive asteroid, felt even colder than the space beyond its halls. Elena's dress uniform, adorned with commendations from 2 interstellar conflicts, suddenly felt heavy on her shoulders. Commander Reyes of Earth spoke High Counselor Xintal, a towering crystalline being whose voice resonated through the chamber. The Assembly has reached its final decision. Elena maintained her composure despite her racing heart. I'm honored to receive the Assembly's wisdom, High Counselor. Xintal's faceted features shifted, refracting light, and what Elena had learned was an expression of discomfort. As of this moment, all human military forces are banned from participating in any galactic conflicts. Earth's defense fleet may remain within your solar system, but no human vessels or personnel will join Alliance operations henceforth. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Elena blinked, certain she had misheard. Banned, Counselor. There must be some mistake. Humanity has only participated in 2 interstellar conflicts since joining the Assembly. We followed all established protocols. This is not a negotiation, Commander, said a reptilian representative from the Saurian Confederation. The decision is unanimous. Elena's diplomatic training began to falter. With respect, we deserve to know why. What rules have we violated? What protocols have we broken? The Assembly members exchanged glances. Many wouldn't meet her eyes. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Xintal raised a crystalline hand. This decision was made for the safety of all species, including your own. Human forces will withdraw to Sol system within 30 standard days. This session is concluded. Guards appeared at Elena's sides, not threatening, but clearly there to escort her out. As she turned to leave, a small being with emerald skin and 6 eyes spoke up. The human deserves to know the truth, counselors. Xintal's form darkened. The Assembly has spoken, Representative Kalor. Kalor rose from his seat. My people fought alongside humans at the Battle of Vega Prime. Many still haven't recovered, not from enemy action, but from fighting with them. Elena turned back. What does that mean? We protected your ships. And that, Kalor said softly, is precisely the problem. The guards guided Elena toward the exit. Her last glimpse of the Assembly showed beings in hushed conversation, some looking frightened, others relieved. The massive doors sealed behind her with a finality that felt like the end of humanity's brief interstellar military career. 6 months later, Elena sat in her underground office beneath Geneva, reviewing reports from across Earth's defensive perimeter. The planet's leaders had created a special task force to investigate the ban, and Elena now headed this small, secretive team. Dr. Amit Sharma, once the foremost xenobiologist in Earth's fleet, entered with a tablet in hand. Still nothing concrete, he said, frustration evident in his voice. 6 months of diplomatic requests, and the Assembly continues to stonewall us. Elena gestured to a chair. Any progress on those medical records you were tracking? Only fragments, Amit replied, sitting down. But there's definitely something unusual in the reports from alien medical facilities after joint operations with humans. Reference to something called resonance exposure syndrome. But the details are heavily encrypted. Captain Jess Chen, formerly Elena's intelligence officer, entered the room. Unlike his usual composed self, Jesse appeared excited. I found something, he announced, activating the wall display. It took calling in every favor I had with our few remaining allies, but I managed to get footage from the Battle of Vega Prime. The display showed the chaotic space battle that had occurred 2 years prior, the last major conflict humans had participated in before the ban. Earth ships fought alongside vessels from a dozen alien civilizations against the Crixan Horde, a race of silicon-based entities that had attacked outer colonies. Watch the Melbury ships, Jesse said, highlighting a group of vessels from a species of amphibious aliens. Now pay attention to what happens after 4 hours of fighting alongside human vessels. The footage showed the Melbari ships initially performing with precision and coordination. But as the battle progressed, their movements became erratic. Some fired weapons too rapidly, others maneuvered with reckless speed. Now split screen with human ships during the same time frame. Jesse instructed the system. The display divided to show human vessels in combat. As the battle intensified, the human crews appeared to become more focused, more coordinated. Their reaction times improved. Their tactical decisions became more precise. "That's not normal," Emmett whispered. "Combat fatigue should be setting in at this point, but the humans are getting better." Elena leaned forward. "And the Melbari are getting worse. What's happening to them?" "That's exactly what we need to find out," said diplomat Lin Wei, the fourth member of their team, entering with a datapad. "And I think I know where to look. I've been tracking assembly communications, and there's mention of something called the Vrakith Archive. It's a secure facility that houses classified data from all galactic conflicts." "And let me guess," Elena said, "humans aren't allowed access." Lin nodded. "Not since the ban." Jess crossed his arms. "Which means that's exactly where we need to go." 2 months of careful planning later, Elena's team approached the Vrakith Archive aboard a Centaurian merchant vessel. They wore biomimetic masks that altered their appearance to resemble the blue-skinned Centaurians who had agreed to smuggle them aboard the massive space station. "Remember," Elena whispered as they passed through the docking security checkpoint, "we have 6 hours before the molecular stabilizers in these masks begin to degrade. We need to be gone by then." The teams split up according to plan. Emmett headed for the biological research section, Jess toward the security hub, Lin to the diplomatic archives, and Elena to the military intelligence division. The corridors of the archive were eerily quiet, most of the work automated by AI systems. Elena moved purposefully, using the access codes provided by their Centaurian allies. Finally, she reached the military intelligence section. "I'm in," she whispered into her subdermal communicator. "Biological archives accessed," came Emmett's response. "Elena, there's something strange here. Reports about human neurochemistry during combat situations. Security systems mapped," Jesse added. "I can give us extra time if needed." "Diplomatic records secured," Lin confirmed. "They're heavily encrypted, but I found references to Protocol Omega regarding humans." Elena began searching through the military files, most locked behind high-security protocols. She attached a quantum bypass device to the terminal, and suddenly more files appeared on the screen. "I found something," she said. "Battle effectiveness ratings from all conflicts involving humans." The data scrolled before her eyes, and she felt a chill run down her spine. According to these analyses, human combat effectiveness increases by 200% after the first hour of intense conflict. "That's impossible." "It gets stranger," Emmett's voice came through. "These medical scans show unusual neurochemical patterns in humans during sustained combat. Our brains release a complex cascade of compounds that sharpen focus, increase reaction time, and enhance pattern recognition. It's like our entire nervous system reconfigures for warfare." "And here's the key," Lin added. "Diplomatic records show that alien physiology can't handle prolonged exposure to humans in combat. Something about us affects them on a neurological level." Jess's voice cut in urgently. "Security alert. Someone's detected our presence. We have minutes, not hours." Elena quickly downloaded all the data she could. "Rendezvous at extraction point 3. Move." As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Elena raced through corridors, her mind reeling from what they'd discovered. The truth was beginning to take shape, a truth about humanity that would change everything. They'd barely made it back to the Centaurian ship, guards in pursuit. As the vessel detached from the station and accelerated away, Elena looked at her team, all breathing hard from the narrow escape. "Did everyone get what we needed?" she asked. They nodded, and Emmett held up his data crystal. "More than enough. I think I understand now." Understand what? Elena asked. Why the galaxy fears us, Amit replied. And why they banned us from their wars. As the ship entered FTL, carrying them back toward Earth, and the revelation that would reshape humanity's place in the cosmos, Elena stared out at the streaking stars. They had sought answers and found them, but now she wondered if humanity was ready for the truth about itself, a truth that had terrified the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The revelation. The secure briefing room beneath Geneva hummed with tension as Elena's team prepared to present their findings to Earth's Security Council. 3 weeks had passed since their daring raid on the Vrakith archive, time spent analyzing the stolen data and confirming their incredible discoveries. Admiral Chen Zheng, the highest-ranking military officer on Earth, studied Elena with concerned eyes. "You're certain about this, Commander Reyes?" "Completely, Admiral," Elena replied. "The evidence is irrefutable." The 12 members of the Security Council filed in, representatives from Earth's unified regions taking their seats around the circular table. Elena nodded to Amit, who activated the holographic display. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, "we've discovered why humans were banned from galactic conflicts. The reason is both simpler and more profound than we imagined." The display showed brain scans of various species side by side: human, Melberry, Centaurian, and others. "Dr. Sharma will explain the scientific aspects," Elena said, yielding the floor. Amit stepped forward. "These are comparative neurological patterns during combat situations," he explained. "For most sapient species, prolonged combat causes predictable degradation in neural function. Stress hormones build up, cognitive abilities decline, reaction times slow." He highlighted the human brain scan. "But humans are different. Our neurochemistry evolved on a predator-rich planet, where we were neither the strongest nor the fastest. We developed something unique, a combat response that actually improves with duration and intensity." The display shifted to show human brain activity during the Battle of Vega Prime, with timestamps marking hours into the conflict. "As you can see," Amit continued, "human neural activity becomes more organized, more efficient during sustained combat. We enter what military historians have long called the zone, a state of hyperfocus where time seems to slow and combat effectiveness dramatically increases." Admiral Zhang leaned forward. "This is why we were banned. Because we get better at fighting the longer we fight." "That's only half the equation," Lin said, taking over the presentation. "The assembly discovered something far more disturbing. Humans emit what they call a neural resonance field during combat, a subtle but measurable electromagnetic pattern generated by our brains when we enter this state." Jess brought up footage from the Vrakith archive showing alien soldiers fighting alongside humans. "Watch what happens to the Melberry troops who fought within 3 meters of humans for extended periods," he said. "Their own neural patterns begin to synchronize with the human resonance field." The footage showed alien soldiers fighting with increasing intensity, their movements becoming erratic, almost frenzied. "Their brains aren't evolved to handle this pattern," Emmett explained. "It's like forcing a computer to overclock. They burn out." The medical records show thousands of cases of aliens suffering neurological damage after extended combat operations alongside humans. A stunned silence fell over the room. "We're weapons," Elena said quietly. "Not just soldiers, but living weapons that affect everyone around us. The longer we fight, the more dangerous we become, not just to our enemies, but to our allies. The assembly calls it the berserker effect," Lin added. "They've documented it in every conflict involving humans." "So they feared us," said the Security Council president, "and rather than telling us why, they simply banned us." "They feared what we might do if we learned the truth," Elena corrected. "Imagine if a militaristic faction on Earth discovered we could essentially weaponize our own neural patterns." Admiral Zhang stood up, pacing the room. "What's our next move, Commander? This changes everything about our position in galactic politics." Elena took a deep breath. I believe we need to approach the assembly directly with what we know, not as an accusation, but as a starting point for honest dialogue. We didn't know what we were doing to our allies. Now that we do, we can work together to find a solution. 3 months later, Elena once again stood before the Galactic Assembly. This time, she wasn't alone. Amit, Jesse, and Lin flanked her, along with Admiral Zhang and Earth's chief diplomat. Honorable representatives of the Assembly, Elena began, we come before you acknowledging that we now understand the reason for our exclusion from galactic conflicts. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as the alien delegates registered her words. High Counselor, Sintal's crystalline form shifted. You accessed restricted information. We did, Elena admitted, because you left us no choice. Our species was condemned without explanation. Our allies turned away from us without reason. We needed to understand why. And now that you know, asked Clore, the small emerald being who had spoken up during Elena's last appearance. Now we seek a path forward, Admiral Zhang said. Humans had no knowledge of the neurological effect we have on other species. Had we known, we would never have endangered our allies. Elena stepped forward. We've spent months developing technological solutions. She nodded to Amit, who activated a holographic display showing a new type of combat armor. This neural dampening field generator, Amit explained, contains the resonance effect within the human wearing it. We've tested it extensively with volunteer Centaurian observers. It works. The assembly members conferred among themselves, voices rising and falling. Finally, Sintal raised a hand for silence. This is unexpected, the High Counselor admitted. We had assumed humans would use this knowledge to develop weapons, not safeguards. We're not conquerors, Elena said firmly. We're explorers and defenders. Yes, we evolved unique combat abilities on our homeworld, but that doesn't define who we are or what we wish to become. A reptilian delegate leaned forward. If your dampening technology works as claimed, what role do you envision for humans in galactic society? Admiral Zhang answered, we propose a new role, not as frontline combatants, but as emergency responders and peacekeepers. With proper safeguards, our unique abilities could be channeled constructively. In controlled circumstances, Elena added, and only when absolutely necessary, humans could serve as a response force for critical situations, natural disasters, evacuations, or as a last resort against existential threats to the galactic community. The assembly debated for hours, questions firing from all sides. Earth's delegation answered patiently, transparently, holding nothing back. As the session neared its end, Sintal called for a vote. The assembly recognizes that humans acted in ignorance, not malice, the High Counselor announced after the votes were tallied. We accept the proposed safeguards and the new role for Earth forces as emergency responders rather than standard military units. Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the weight of 6 months of uncertainty and fear. However, Sintal continued, we will maintain observation protocols. The ban on standard military participation remains in effect, but we welcome Earth's Emergency Response Corps under the conditions outlined today. Clore stood. I would add that we owe humanity an apology. Fear led us to exclusion rather than explanation. That was a failure on our part, and we apologize for the harm we unknowingly caused, Elena responded. Moving forward in honesty is all any species can do. 1 year later, Elena stood on the bridge of the ERS Mercy, Earth's first response vessel under the new protocols. The ship, designed for rescue operations and humanitarian missions, orbited a planet ravaged by seismic disasters. Commander, her communications officer called, we're receiving distress signals from the southern continent. The Melberry colony there is cut off by lava flows. Plot a course, Elena ordered. Prepare the response teams, neural dampeners at full capacity. As the ship changed orbit, Elena looked at her crew. Humans who had once been feared as unwitting biological weapons, now racing to save lives across the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on her. The very trait that had made humans dangerous in war, their ability to focus and improve under extreme pressure, now made them the galaxy's most effective disaster responders. "Ready to deploy, Commander," Jess reported from his station. Elena nodded. "Remind all personnel. Dampeners remain active at all times. We're here to help, not to harm." As the ship descended toward the endangered colony, Elena reflected on humanity's journey. They had gone from pariahs to protectors, their biological quirk now a gift rather than a curse. The galaxy had feared them for what they were, but now respected them for what they chose to do with their unique abilities. "Response teams away," Jess announced as shuttles launched toward the surface. "Sometimes understanding what makes us different is the first step to finding where we truly belong," Elena said quietly, watching her teams race to save alien lives. The Melbury, once victims of humanity's unwitting combat influence, would now experience a different side of human intensity, not the berserker rage of battle, but the focused determination to preserve life at any cost. And in that moment, Elena knew humanity had found its true place among the stars, not as warriors to be feared, but as guardians to be welcomed when disaster struck. The ban on human participation in galactic wars remained, but now it was understood not as punishment, but as recognition of a biological reality. Humans weren't meant to be soldiers in alien conflicts. They were meant to be something far more valuable. The ones who arrived when all hope seemed lost, the ones whose unusual evolution had prepared them not just to fight, but to save. And throughout the galaxy, word spread of the humans, the species that turned its battle resonance into a rescue response, its combat focus into crisis management. The species that, when banned from war, had found its true calling in peace. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.